Our movie began with a mischievous kid named Theo. He often got his homework done by tempting others with video games. Instead of using the front door, he'd climb a pipe and sneak through his window into his room. One day, Theo was munching on a banana on the roof and just tossed the peel down. Suddenly, a portal popped open and the banana peel just vanished into thin air. When Theo didn't hear it land, he looked back, confused, and checked downstairs, no peel. So he tossed his roller skate down and the same thing happened. It vanished too. Theo was even more astonished. He threw a rock down and it disappeared. He then went to tell his older brother Oscar about this weird portal. Their parents weren't around, so they lived with their grandma. Now Oscar was really mad at Theo because Theo had ripped pages from their mom's books to make paper rockets. Theo tried to explain he'd found a time portal, but Oscar just thought Theo was messing with him. Their mom had mysteriously disappeared. Theo figured she'd run off with someone. Oscar, though, believed she was a brilliant scientist who had been looking for time portals and was probably stuck in another time. He wanted to understand her research to bring her back. The brothers kept bickering. Their grandma called them for food and they quieted down in front of her. But as soon as she left, the argument started right back up. Oscar, in a fit of rage, cursed at Theo. Then Theo, equally angry, threw Oscar's turtle into the portal. Oscar frantically searched everywhere for his beloved turtle. When he couldn't find it, Oscar put up missing posters for his turtle all over the place. He was really attached to that turtle and just cried about losing him. Theo soon realized his mistake and thought about jumping into the portal himself to fix everything. As soon as Theo jumped, he landed in the same spot where everything he'd thrown into the portal had ended up. The turtle was there too. Theo took the turtle home, put it back, and quietly went to sleep. But the next morning, something super strange happened. Theo was still asleep, but Oscar was already ready for work. Oscar had gotten way older. Theo had actually used the portal to jump from 1990 to 2022. In 2022, Oscar was a physics professor. Soon after, Oscar went to a store owned by a guy named David to pick up some stuff. A bit later, David's daughter, Elena, showed up. David and Elena had been good friends for a while. David had liked Elena since they were kids, but never managed to say anything. Elena was divorced and a mother of 2 kids, but Oscar still had feelings for her. Elena was an English professor at Oscar's university. Back home, Theo woke up and started looking for Oscar. He picked up the turtle and went to find Grandma. Grandma was really old now and didn't recognize Theo. When Oscar saw Theo, he was so shocked he fainted. When Oscar came to, he asked, "Is that really you, Theo?" Theo was confused too. He asked Oscar, "Who are you? And how do you know my name?" Oscar told him, "I'm your big brother." Theo was amazed and asked, "How did you get so big in one day?" After some talking, they figured out that Theo had somehow ended up in 2022. They talked about the time Oscar was mad at Theo for ripping up their mom's notes. Theo showed Oscar a picture of their mom in a red dress. Theo was now desperate to go back to 1992 because he was scared Grandma would yell at him if he was late. Theo went up to the roof to jump back into the portal, but when he threw a rock down, it didn't disappear. That particular portal had closed in 2022. Theo was perplexed about how the portal could just close. Oscar explained that time travel isn't so straightforward. The way you came here doesn't necessarily mean the portal goes back too. Oscar realized they'd need to find a new portal to get back from 2022 to 1990. While gathering information on this, Oscar took Theo to a senior professor. The professor explained that in 2022, science and technology had advanced a lot, but time portals couldn't possibly exist. Hearing this, both brothers left. Theo was pretty amazed by the modern world. He saw Oscar's phone and asked what it was. Oscar explained it was a phone, but you didn't have to dial numbers like old phones. Oscar calmed Theo down, saying they needed to focus on finding the portal. "Don't you want to go back to 1990? Theo then told Oscar that he'd found a handwritten list in their mom's papers when he was tearing them up for rockets. He'd hidden it in a dictionary to annoy Oscar. He thought it might have some clues. They asked Grandma about the dictionary, and she said she'd given it to David. The next morning, Oscar told Theo he was going to see David and instructed Theo to stay put at home. But Theo secretly snuck out and headed to a big mall. Theo was absolutely stunned by the gadgets in the mall. He accidentally broke a VR headset while trying it out. Oscar was called to the mall and had to pay for all the damages. Oscar scolded Theo for not listening, and then they both went to David's departmental store to look for the dictionary. David said he had the dictionary at home. Just then, Elena walked in. Theo was amazed at how beautiful Elena had become. Elena then asked, "Who's this kid? How does he know my name?" Oscar lied and said he was his cousin's son. Oscar somehow changed the subject, and then Elena invited them both to her house. Her son and daughter were busy playing video games. Theo was super impressed by these video games and started playing with Elena's son, Zen. Back home, Theo and Oscar got to work. On the roof, Oscar explained that the list had locations for different portals. They tried throwing things at the specified locations to find time portals, but nothing worked. Oscar thought he'd made some mistakes in his calculations and started recalculating. Meanwhile, Theo kept asking him why he was always alone and didn't have any friends. "And why haven't you told Alina your feelings yet?" Oscar, while calculating, responded that even though Alina was divorced, he didn't think anything could happen between them. Without Oscar knowing, Theo used Oscar's phone to text David, Alina, and Alina's kids, inviting them over for dinner. When they showed up at the door, Oscar was shocked to see everyone. Theo explained that he'd called everyone, and Oscar understood his mischief. During this get-together, Oscar and Alina grew closer, and the next day, Alina took Theo shopping to get him some new clothes. In the changing room, Theo was doing his usual funny football commentary. This action reminded Alina, and she realized he was Oscar's little brother Theo. She hugged Theo and asked why he hadn't aged after disappearing for so many years. Theo explained that he'd jumped into a time portal, which brought him straight from 1990 to 2022. Alina couldn't quite believe it, but she had living proof right in front of her. To confirm, Alina asked Oscar. Oscar threw a rock off the roof, and this time the rock bounced back up. This showed that a time portal was there. Oscar explained there were 3 types of time portals. The first type allowed direct travel from one time to another. The second type might dump you anywhere. And the third type was super dangerous because you couldn't get out of it. Theo had used the first type of portal to get to 2022, and now they had to find the right portal to send Theo back to 1990. Now these folks started doing research every day, and Oscar really liked having Alina around so often. He'd even dance happily when he was alone. The two of them started looking for the right portal together. Alina wasn't too thrilled about sending Theo back to 1990 because changing the past might change their future. Her kids might never be born, and she loved her children a lot. But Oscar promised her that Theo going back wouldn't affect her life. He'd try his best to make sure Alina's life stayed untouched. They pondered how to make sure both timelines stayed exactly as they were. Theo then had an idea. To crack the coordinates written by his mom, he got help from Alina's kids. He figured if he went to the past with their help, it would guarantee they'd be born in the future, because if they weren't, he never would have been able to reach the past. The 3 of them used a map to find a shortcut that Theo believed was a time portal. He thought it could take him back to 1990. Excited, Theo jumped into the ocean water at the beach, and Brenda and Nathan, unwillingly, had to jump with him. When they reached the shore, they were shocked because the city they'd come from was just mountains now. This meant the city hadn't been built yet, so they had indeed reached the past. But unfortunately, instead of 1990, they had gone even further back to 1949. Stuck in an unknown place, the 3 of them tried to figure out what had happened. They had used the second type of portal, which threw them into any random time. Meanwhile, back in 2022, a worried Alina called Oscar, telling him Theo and both kids were gone. Oscar said they might have found the 1990 portal. Now Oscar and Alina would have to go there too to bring them back. In 1949, the 3 kids had no money and their phones weren't working. Plus, all 3 kids were hungry. Then Brenda and Nathan came up with an idea. They could use their gadgets to perform a mind-reading magic show. Nathan sat a little distance away, and Brenda closed her eyes. Theo stood in front of a board writing names. Using wireless earphones, Nathan read the names to Brenda, and people thought it was magic. How is this girl telling names without seeing? She must have powers. The audience was thrilled and clapped loudly. They got some money from this, but the police soon saw everything. Doing such things in public without permission was forbidden. As soon as Theo saw the police coming, he signaled his companions to run, and the 3 of them immediately took off. While running, an unknown man kidnapped the 3 of them and took them to an unknown place, putting the kids' lives in even greater danger. Back in 2022, Theo and Alina found the entry to the 1990 portal. They held hands and jumped into the portal. Alina truly felt like she was dreaming as she time traveled. In 1990, Theo's missing posters were everywhere. In 1949, the man who kidnapped the kids brought them to a gang that was against the government. The gang leader asked why these kids were brought here. The man explained that these kids knew the gang's secret code. Theo, confused, asked, "Which secret code word?" The man told him that the whistling sound Theo made to escape the police was the gang's code word. Grandma had taught Theo that whistle. Just then, a young woman from the gang came over. This was Theo's grandma when she was young. Theo realized his grandma had once been a member of this gang. She had learned to whistle from them. Theo didn't tell anyone she was his grandma because everyone would think he was crazy, but he hugged her anyway. This gang was against the government but worked for the good of the people, and they had no intention of harming the children, so the three of them were safe there for now. Meanwhile, in 1990, Oscar and Alina were searching for the kids in Oscar's house, but no one was there. Suddenly, they heard someone's voice, and both hid in a cupboard. It was little Oscar, crying over Theo's disappearance. Oscar from the future felt really sad seeing this. In 1949, the three kids were starting to adapt to the gang's lifestyle because they felt they couldn't go back through the portal they came from. Theo's young grandma was with them too, so Theo wasn't having too much trouble adjusting. Theo found an opportunity and asked his grandma to take a photo with them. He also told her to always keep this photo safe, even when you get old. Keep it framed. This caused a sudden change in Grandma's photo frame in 1990. Now Theo, Brenda, and Nathan were also in the photo with Grandma. Theo wrote the time portal's coordinates behind this photo in 1949 to help Oscar and Alina in 1990 find him. Now Oscar and Alina figured they had to go back to 2022 so they could use the correct portal to reach 1949 and rescue the three kids. Oscar and Alina first went back to 2022, then used Theo's coordinates to reach 1949. In 1949, Theo told his grandma's gang members that his brother Oscar would come to get him. So, two people were already waiting there. When these people whistled the tune Grandma had taught them, Oscar responded with the same whistle, after which Oscar and Alina were taken to Grandma's gang. Alina was thrilled to see her kids safe, but Theo didn't want to go back now. He was enjoying 1949. Oscar felt terrible hearing this. He told Theo, "Yeah, we fight, but that doesn't mean we don't love each other." He didn't want his little brother to leave him. Oscar said, "You can't even imagine how long I cried remembering you after you left." Just then, their young grandma arrived. Oscar was surprised to see her but didn't say anything. Now they all had to find the time portal to go back to 2022. So a man from the gang was driving them there. This man was none other than Oscar and Theo's grandpa. Soon they found the portal to go back to 2022. And now Oscar prepared to send Theo back to 1990. They had already found that portal at the construction site. Theo didn't want to go back because he had no one in 1990. He told Oscar, "I want to stay with you now. You remind me a little bit of Dad." Oscar hugged Theo lovingly and explained that the Oscar in 1990 was also very lonely. He really needed Theo there. Reluctantly, Theo went back to 1990. Oscar was overjoyed to have him back, and his grandma also gave him a lot of love. When Theo was asked where he'd been, he told Grandma a fake story about being kidnapped by a gang. Oscar, confused and upset by Theo's disappearance, now started to believe their mom had really left them. Frustrated, he began throwing their mom's books. But Theo came over and told Oscar the whole story of his time travel. He even showed Oscar the phone from 2022. Oscar wasn't entirely convinced by his story, but after seeing the phone, he couldn't deny it either. Both brothers then decided never to use the time portal again and promised to be happy in the present. Now, in 2022, both brothers were together. As soon as the doorbell rang, Theo joked to Oscar that his girlfriend Alina must be here. Theo told Oscar to finally tell her how he felt. She was divorced now. Theo had deliberately not told Oscar this before, because if he had, Alina's kids would never have been born, and Alina's life would have completely changed, which he'd promised not to do. But now was the perfect time. The kids were born, and the divorce was final. As soon as Oscar opened the door, Alina was standing outside, and from here, their lives could take a new turn. Finally, the scene shifts to a much older time. A portal opened and a woman stepped out of it. This was a very ancient time and people knew nothing about science. This woman was none other than Theo and Oscar's mother. The story ends right there. So, what do you think? Should Theo have convinced his brother to talk to the girl earlier? Maybe he would never have gotten divorced and they would have lived happily ever after. Let us know in the comments and we'll see you in the next video.